Howdy partners, it's so good to be here yet again. So many 2024 films that I've yet to see, and they're all coming out like at the same time. Kinda underestimated, so I'm gonna have a lot of homework in the next few weeks. I'm very excited for it, but that does mean that the 2024 year-end list, both for top games of 2024 and top films of 2024, will be slightly delayed, but fear not, they are coming. But tonight I got to see September 5, a historical drama thriller that covers the events of the terrorist attacks during the 1972 Olympics in Munich through the perspective of the ABC sports coverage of that incident. Is this a supercharged political topic? Especially in today's context? You bet. But for the immediate moment, let's just follow the story wherever it takes us, very much like these sports journalists themselves, who frankly had no business in reporting this kind of news, but lo and behold, they found themselves to be the closest ones in the area, and they took it upon themselves to wear the mantle of responsibility of covering this story, regardless of their ill-suited experience and skill sets. And thus they found themselves in a bunch of morally gray zone areas when it comes to the live coverage of these events. And even throughout the film, I found myself thinking, I don't know if it's such a good idea to be showing all this information for a bunch of reasons. Indeed, there are a few moments where these key decisions had to be made in these super high pressure situations where the clock is constantly ticking and frankly, people's lives are kind of on the line here. And I did not fully realize as I was watching this film is that this is the first live coverage of a terrorist attack ever on live TV. So it was a chaotic moment in history for so many reasons where 900 million people tuned in to watch these events. Staggering stuff and a topic very much worthy to capture on film. And what a fascinating demonstration of how those events were covered. In this one we get a very detailed behind the scenes look of the process it took to get a reins on this logistical nightmare of just getting the whole crew together, waking people up, getting all the tech and equipment set up in the right places, while also editing and preparing things and also being in a super iterative situation because new information is constantly flooding in. So there's quite a lot of on-the-spot journalism that's happening where everyone is pressured to come up with the right info at the right time. And once again, the clock is ticking. The consequences here could be catastrophic. So it was absolute chaos. God help anyone who finds themselves in that kind of situation. And it took a tremendous team effort to pull it off as well as it did. By the end of the journey, it feels like a catastrophe the way things went down, which frankly it was. But on the same side, it was also a damn good job that they pulled it off once again quite as well as they did. Once again highlighting the fact that these were sports journalists for the Olympics. They were not ready for this kind of responsibility. And now when it comes to the actual visual craft of this film, I love the set that was built, all the props, and all these 70s aesthetics are totally there. I also love the use of the lighting and the general ambiance of the film. So from a visual standpoint, I think they knocked it out the park. And I also want to say that I really appreciate all the real footage that was used in the film, which almost gives the film a semi-documentary vibe. It really felt at time that we were blurring the line between dramatic recreation and real life events. And I think one of the most shocking realities of this film was that while this terrorist incident was happening, on the split screen we had the Olympic Games that were continuing on the side. I can somewhat empathize with the athletes because, I mean, they spent their whole life to just work up to this one moment in history where they have a moment to prove their prowess in whatever field of sport they were in. We all know the sacrifices that athletes have to go to get to that position. But by that same token, it's impossible to ignore the events that are happening not too far away from their location. Significantly dangerous events too, of course. While that is happening on the side, there's this real life events happening over here that even though this is real life, they themselves felt like a fantasy recreation on TV. It must have felt like a fever dream for the people who were there capturing this live. So as you can tell, I was totally immersed in this experience, and this is helped by a rock solid cast that is just juggling with fire throughout the entire film. The chaos and noise of the control room is just mind-boggling, where there's so much information, people, and things happening all at the same time, while also directing a live TV, giving information, editing here and there, while also being on the phone, while also checking the German news for any relevant information, and then passing the phone to the TV so that they can translate the German on speakerphone to English to actually give the information to someone else, while also being on the walkie-talkie with another person to coordinate other things happening at the same time. It was absolute madness, but exhilarating cinema as far as drama goes. This 94-minute film flew by like a speeding bullet. Shit, forgive the frankly inappropriate pun. But by the end of the film, I was frankly a little breathless. So I think this is a pretty outstanding film. I'm ranging at the very least an 8 out of 10. Pretty powerful stuff. And it's also a very strange time to have this film released now in cinemas. Well, at least in Montreal on January 17th, when just the other day we learned that finally we're getting an actual ceasefire in Gaza. God willing that it actually lasts this time. Frankly, all this bloodshed just makes me sick to my stomach. Can we just not continue this endless cycle of savagery? Is that really too much to ask? And while we're at it, can we also stop the war in Ukraine as well? Haven't we seen enough of all this bloodshed everywhere upon the world? It might be rather naive for me. Believe me, I am very much aware of the darkness of mankind in our past, present, and most likely future eventually. Hopefully not immediate future, or ever for that matter. But even so, I still dream of a better world filled with peace and love. I don't think that's impossible. I actively choose to hope in the good of mankind because I know that potential is there. It always has been and it always will be. And I choose to move in that direction in whichever small way I can. And as a final thing to say, not that it has anything to do with that or this film, but the other day we also learned a pretty sad news. David Lynch passed away. This man is one of my greatest inspirations that goes far beyond my love for cinema. Not only was this man a true artist, but he was also a role model for me just in terms of his personality and leadership as a director. The pure goodness just emanating from his soul was impossible to not recognize. He was just this influence of light in this very dark world. I feel like everyone who's collaborated with him has walked away a better person because of the influence this man imparted on everyone and everything surrounding him. What a beautiful energy. Truly a giant has left the stage, but even though he is no longer with us in this world, his dream will continue to live on in our hearts and soul. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you to David Lynch for all the passion, inspiration, and beauty that he's brought into all our lives. You most certainly will not be forgotten. And with all that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. As always, take care. I'll be back soon.